Hello, my name is Freddy Montes, and I'm a product manager at dotCMS. Today, I will show you how to use our Next.js example to integrate with the new Edit Mode Anywhere experience. And I will show you how our new JavaScript SDK libraries will help you with this task. The example lives in our main repo, dotCMS core, under the folder ema/Next.js. And let's clone this and open it in the editor. Once you open this in the editor, you gotta go to the file m.local.example, and we're gonna rename it to m.local. And then we got to complete some environmental variables right here. Let's start with the .cms host. In this case, I'm going to use my localhost 8080 because I have a .cms instance running locally, but you can use anything that you want, any of your .cms instances. And we need to get a .cms out token. In order to do that, let's open my localhost 8080 and let's log in there. Once I log in, I can go to users and I can pick any user to generate a token from. But in my case, I'm going to use an admin user. You gotta make sure that the user that you want to use have all the permissions. So I'm going to request a new token, and I'm going to add whatever name, in this case, Next.js. I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna copy this. And I'm going to go back to my VS Code and paste this right here. And now I already completed these two pieces. After this, I can open my terminal. I'm open the terminal right here in VS Code, and I need to run npm install so I can install all the dependencies that Next.js needs. And that's it. Now I can npm run dev, and this will start Next.js in dev mode. It's starting in the localhost 3000. So I can copy this and go here. Let me open a new tab. And this is how our example looks like with the data from our demo site. Now we need to set the edit mode anywhere app in .cms. But before doing that, let me show you something. So now if I'm in my .cms instance and I go to try to edit any page, so I'm going to page and then here homepage, this is how it looks like. And this is the page being rendered by .cms engine, not Next.js. So if you compare, like you can see this explore the world, and then you can see we have some information here. If we see that information and we see this one, is the exact same information. The only difference is that this one is being rendered with Next.js using our page API, and this one is being rendered with the old way of .cms rendering templates and themes. Now, what we want to do is we want to edit this page with this look and feel inside this editor. In order to do that, we got to go to settings apps, and we have this new edit mode anywhere next app that we can open, and we're going to set that app, or we're going to configure that app for the demo.cms host. So I can click here, and then here I need to pass some configuration. Here's an example of how it looks like, but I already have one in my clipboard. So I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to show you what this means. So we got a config property that takes an array of configuration. In this case, I'm only setting one, and it have the parent property, and this parent is a regex that is going to match again the URL that you're trying to edit. And then this URL is the actual Next.js app that you're going to use to edit your page, that you're going to provide to your page editors. Of course, that means that this pattern could be anything. That means that you can put a folder here, and you can only use this host to edit the pages in that folder, while all the other folders in the site will not be affected by this configuration. And because this is an array, you can add as many entries as you want. That means that in .cms, you can have one site that can render different pages with different applications. Some could be with the old .cms template engine. Some could be with an external web app, like in this case. I'm going to save this right here. And then if I go to site pages and I try to edit, you can see that now it goes into this new cleaner version of the edit page. And that is loading the Next.js app, right? So now I can edit this content. Let's add here 1, 2, 3, and I can publish. And now this content has been edited. And if I go to my Next.js app and I refresh, you can see that this content has been edited. I can also, for example, drag and drop a piece of content right here, right? And if I save this and I go this and I refresh, the content is right there. So that's pretty much it. This is how you set everything up together. But let me explain you in Next.js how this is happening. Now, if I go to my code and I'm going to open, first of all, the package.json so we can see the packages that we're using here. Here in the dependencies, we have two packages that are very important for this task, which are dotCMS client and dotCMS next.js. The dotCMS client, it helps you to interact with the dotCMS page API and the dotCMS navigation API. And the next.js, it provides a component and some hooks that would allow to your next.js app communicate with the .cms page editor. If we go to source apps, we can see here that we only have one page to render all the pages in .cms. And if I open that page, let's see this code. The first thing that we do is we import the .cms client and we initialize the client right here. And we have to pass the .cms URL, the out token. Both of them are coming from the environmental variables. Then we gotta pass the site ID, and we can pass some request options that this client will use inside the library in the fetch request. So in this case, we are passing cache, no cache, because I'm showing you how to be edited, and I always want to fetch data from .cms. I added a comment here, like if you are in production, you might want to deal with this differently. Then after that, I have this function right here, which is a function coming from Next.js that it allows you to generate the metadata for this page. And then let's go to this component right here. This again is coming from Next.js. This is a way Next.js render a page. Basically, you have to export the default function, React component. And right now what we're doing is we're using the client page API and we're calling it a get to get the page. And we're passing the path, the language ID, and the persona ID. All that information is coming from the URL in Next.js. And the other thing that we're doing with the client library is using the nav API to get the navigation. Now I create this wrapper component where I pass the navigation and the data, the page API data. And if we go to this page, it takes that. And here is basically you can do anything you want. I'm using, for example, for this, I'm using Tailwind. So I created a Tailwind wrapper. And inside the data, I got a layout property that has the header. If I have the header in true, I will render the header with the navigation. Then I have a main section where we're using this special component that we are providing to you. And this is a .cms layout component that we are importing from the .cms next.js. And this is a component that can take the data coming from the page API and it will be rendering all this information, all the layout information, meaning all the rows, columns, containers, and contents. And this is the last piece of the puzzle. We can pass components object in which you can define how do you want to render each content type inside this page. So for example, this page have a web page content type have banner, activities, product, and images. All these, the keys of this are the variable of the content type, and the value is the component, is a regular React component that you want to use to render that type of content type inside this page. For example, if we see the page, if we see the component for banner, you can see that here we have the image component from Next.js, and we got some Tailwind classes, and we got a link, and basically this receives all the content information. So we can have the title, these are the fields for the content type, the image, the caption, button text, and link. And we just use that information to render the component for the banner inside that page. And that's pretty much it. You just give to this component the components that you want to use to render each piece of content, the data coming from the page API that you fetch with the .cms client, and you're good to go. Inside this .cms layout, there are some extra sauce, which is basically how we communicate this page with the .cms editor. So you don't have to care about that. As long as you use this component, you are ready to use edit mode anywhere. And that's pretty much it. By just using our library or our Next.js starter, you will be ready to use edit mode anywhere in no time. We're going to keep working on this. We're going to improve our libraries. If you have any feedback, please go open an issue in our GitHub repo. And we're ready to listen to your feedback to make this even better.